Well, hello, baby gorillas, and I thought I would talk to you, and I'm running out of battery and all sorts of Operation Koper. So we just talked there about Nicola Sturgeon being being in big trouble about the false sexual allegations, and now we've got allegations of do not resuscitate orders in the Scottish hospitals that were given to patients. We also lost a lot of people for ventilation as well. That was another thing that seemed to be killing people as well. And then we also lost people from them actually giving people who didn't require the jab. And then people have got aggressive cancer, sudden death syndromes, and all sorts. And we will stop broadcasting on YouTube as well by the individuals who may have caused thousands of deaths for allowing the vaccine to be put into people's bodies. But they were actually literally killing people from do not resuscitation orders and putting people with COVID in old folks' homes. And that was all under Nicola Sturgeon. And now there's an Operation Koper, which, again, I'm not sure when the findings of that, if it's going to come out before the election. They seem to fog off everything till after the election so they don't look like the incompetent bunch of pricks that they are. Possibly culpable homiciding bunch of pricks that they are. And this could mean that the Scottish government, because they're a bunch of communists, were involved in the killing, extrajudicial killing of Scots through incorrect proper medical care, putting people with COVID in old folks' homes, or even giving the individuals the jab in the first place, suicides from locking people in the house for 2 years for what has been described as a cold. Although I've had quite bad, but people who have had it not been jagged, it seem to be faring a lot better than those that have been jabbed. Forced them to do it by threat of losing their jobs. And they're probably going to try and cover it up so that the actual exploration of this, what's actually happened here, is kicked into the long grass. Obviously with the SNP controlling the judiciary again and the actual investigations and the police, there is nothing that the police or the judiciary can then do to actually involve themselves in the actual scrutiny of the state. So, I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable. So the government could have been involved in the deaths and murders of culpable homicide of people in Scotland. For that, thank you for the update, so much appreciated. No problem, Elizabeth. For the mass murder of individual culpable homicide, potentially, as was pointed out in the last one, with the points from the British state. They did it down south as well. And people were not given a choice to whether or not they wanted to take an experimental vaccine. And now we don't know where it is where these investigations, if the police are taking it seriously, or are they just getting stalled because of the control of one state police force, all controlled by the SNP, one judiciary, all controlled by the SNP, because of Westminster's setting up of this absolutely ugly looking NCP car park. So, I mean, and it's just all be kicked to John Watt, who I may have my first ever podcast, actually, where I'm the interviewer. I'm sure somebody's going to get a lot of mileage with that one. But John Watt, the first time I met John Watt was bring on the noise. Or bring out the noise, bring in the noise. Bring up the noise, bring up the noise, bring up the noise, bring up the noise. Bring up the noise, bring up the noise. Yeah, big shout out to him as well. Lovely fella, John Watt. And he wasn't really very political, so, and he's a wee bit like James English. Bring the noise, go and join it, bring the noise. And a bit like James English and him both Celtic supporters, funnily enough, as well. Shout out to Steely as well. Big shout out to Steely as well. So, James is like John, not just the fact they're Celtic supporters, but the fact is that both of them see he's the same changes of view as well. James has seemed to have gone on this journey, political journey, because both of them loved yes. The James and John have gone on this political journey together, and even the education that James is getting from his podcast. He's certainly going on this journey, this political journey, and John's going on the political journey of a greater understanding from two people who I would have said who weren't really that interested in politics to start with, but politics was interested in them. And they've done some great stuff, both John and James, in particular James. James is really like the Scottish Joe Rogan, isn't he? And he's done some great stuff. I think he's gone down on the 13th to London for Tommy Robinson's speech thing. Big up the noise for making more aware, and political parties, Well, I've been doing this for 8 years, so you should have been watching the Guerilla TV channel. I'm sure they've all been watching it as well. Obviously, I like both of them individually. DS laugh. Who's DS? What I was going to say is, so obviously I've been doing it. I watch it. Well done, mate. Listen, my baby gorillas are the quality. They know what they're talking about. So, but the James, and I wouldn't have said James was particularly, and James from his own self-admission wasn't particularly political, and John wasn't either, and I've asked both of them. I've listened to James, I've not spoken to him since really. I've not spoken to James in 8 years, but I might get the opportunity to see him down in London on the 13th, and again, his involvement. He's had Tommy Robinson on 6 times. His involvement in his understanding is really coming on leaps and bounds, and informing others as well. Obviously, his channel, his views in one episode would outstrip all my views in all my episodes. But I knew that I was going to be doing different things. This channel's probably not just for watchability. But big up Ryan H. Thursday night cheeky wee korma. Pa, Johnny boy, how you doing, brother? One of the OG baby gorillas. I don't know if I'm going to have a korma. I might make my own korma. I've actually, you can get recipes of making kormas off of the internet, and they're absolutely unbelievable. I would have said the recipe kormas from the internet are even better than the Indian kormas, although I do like a good Indian or Pakistani cuisine. So, we'll all be down to see Tommy on the 13th, which will be quite interesting. There'll be a lot of look absolute cowshed behind you, yeah, exactly. So, but a lot of the YouTubers who weren't there when I first went down almost like 8 years ago have all sprung up, and there's a great panoply of brilliant YouTubers all in this same space. But I'll be looking forward to meeting a lot of them and having a chat and bigging up their platforms as well. So yeah, it'll be very interesting. Also, this is a libertarian channel, so we believe in free speech. So obviously he's having a free speech demo, so we're definitely going to be there. So and I think James English is going to go. James English is doing an interview with Tommy Robinson. But let's stick to the subject in hand. Could the whole of the leadership of the SNP be implicated in Operation Koper? And is there potential homicide charges going to come to these individuals in the government for their actions in state? Now, it's an ongoing allegation, so I don't really want to say too much to do with regards to it. A lot of the stuff I'm saying is already in the papers just now. But this could lead to culpable homicide charges. This could have led, corruption is rife in that party. The corruption of the political system could have led to the murder of thousands of people in Scotland through actual physical resuscitation where they put the tube in, through non-resuscitation orders, through the actual jab themselves, or it could also be from the putting people in old folks' homes. So any one of these synopses could have actually led to culpable homicide charges. If that is proven that the jab has given people cancer, heart attacks, sudden death, early infant mortalities, all of these things, that they were forcing people to take the jab. And don't forget the WEF have got a depopulation. They want to depopulate you from this earth to reduce population to the hundreds of thousands. Sorry, the 500 million, I think their objective is. And there's 9 billion people on this planet. So don't forget that they've stated that that's their objective. So if you're voting for a party like the Lib Lab Con Party, like the SNP, like the Greens, who are advocates for this, I don't know if Uncle Harold in the new Steptoe Party is going to be where he's going to be on that journey. But certainly cozying up to Islamists isn't my idea of a good time. So yeah, we're not going to be too keen on Uncle Steptoe, although Steptoe might take a lot of Green votes in Scotland. It's like the devil in the deep blue sea. But none of these globalist shill parties are going to scrutinise or going to hold other parties that are also globalist shill parties to account. And they're going to cover up the agenda. They're going to cover up the agenda for what they want to do. I mean, they've already told us the agenda, so we don't have to accept their agenda. That doesn't have to be what is accepted. And people should go to jail for culpable homicide on a mass scale, at a political level. So I don't know when Operation Koper is going to come out. I don't know when the timeline within the elongated judiciary is going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen before this election, which would then open the eyes maybe to some people about the SNP killing their own people and calling themselves a nationalist party. Obviously, we all know they're a globalist shill party, and that's what they should be called, the globalist shill party. Or GIMPs, they're just another GIMP party, globalist Islamo-Marxist party. Operation Cope and Seath. Cope and Seath. That's pretty much what it would have to be, wouldn't it? Cope and Seath. But I just thought I would update you on that one. So this is another way Nicola Sturgeon could go to jail. This is another opportunity for her going to jail. Straight to jail. Don't pass go. Do not collect your £200. Thank you very much. That's you. Not to mention, she's given £500 million to this Indian steel magnate who we've paid £500 million to. And the guy's just disappeared. We've got to continually pay him, and there's no steelworks and no jobs. Absolutely unbelievable. You couldn't write it. I mean, what a complete waste of money they have been in office. Absolutely shocking. And now we're getting a recycle of other shit SNP MPs that are like the fat guy from up north. Those bollards look like they could do with a paint, maybe a flag. Get the Union Jack, the song tire on it. What was I going to say? Yeah, they're looking mighty boring. That'd be quite funny if they've just painted, wouldn't it, overnight? A song tires and Union Jacks in the back. So, I think that's about it. We don't know if this is going to come out pre the election, but again, this is a massive story of culpable homicide by the SNP and the globalists. A massive story. And you know, I always get it, I'm always miles ahead of them, like Buzz Lightyear of Scottish politics. I'm always ahead of the game. You guys tune in for me to tell you what's going to happen. I stood here years ago telling you about reform, said reform could win the last general election, and I was not far off. Go ahead, paint them, mate. Just get the paint out. Get paint them blue. Come down here at night, start painting them at night. So, yeah, I think I told you the Reform. Now Reform are potentially going to be sitting on 20 seats. 20 seats. I'll come on and talk about smaller parties, who you should vote for. But 20 seats, my full garden's done, is So, 20 seats. So that's it. That's how many they could get in this Parliament just now, in the next Scottish election, the Reform. And now, Reform could win the next general election as well. So I was actually premature in saying they could have won the one that the doughball, the globalist shill doughball, poofy pricks, gay Starmer was won. I think it's hailstones. I think a hailstone just bounced off me there, and they nearly won the last one. I think Reform, unfortunately, aren't living up to the promises. Rupert Lowe in advance seemed better. Well, yeah. I mean, we'll talk about that later. I was going to talk about Lowe versus Rupert. But what may happen. Don't forget, the most important thing is to break the back of the globalist system. So it's breaking Labour and the Conservatives. Do you think Corbyn's new party could have a few seats nudging in Scotland? It's nudging at the Greens, yes. But don't forget, the main thing is to break the back of the Labour and Conservative Party for Reform. The next election could be Advance's election. It's going to be better with Farage in probably, and to broken the back of the Lib Lab Con Party, the Greens and the SNP, and Uncle Harold from the left. I'm surprised Uncle Harold and Steptoe and Sons didn't join with Georgie Porgy Galloway. I told them to do that before the election. No consent was sought and no one was informed, and they were involved in ongoing official trial. Yeah, and they'll try and cover it up. They'll try and smokescreen it, 100%. So, we Georgie Porgy will, if they had listened to me, and we Georgie Porgy and Steptoe had joined together before the last general election, there would be a lot less doughballs in the Labour Party in charge and bringing in all this authoritarian crap that they're bringing in from the WF. So he didn't listen to me, and Farage listened to me when I said to Farage to return to politics, frontline politics, make a commitment for a number of years, which he did. Everything I said, I'm on Works WhatsApp, and with over 500 members, and most are voting Reform next year. Good, mate, good. So, vote Valentine. I'll talk to you about it later. So, it actually doesn't really matter the Scottish election, but I'll get into all that later. But I told you Reform, it matters at the general election next year, but not the local election so much, not the Scottish election. But anyway, it will show a continued movement. So, I'll explain all that later. I want to keep this so that they could be in jail for culpable homicide, and probably the reason they won't is because of the corruption and the control of both the police and the judiciary by the state, and thereby the state not being able to investigate Koper properly, or it gets smoke screened, or things get Tipp-X'd out, or we get a thing like the Hamilton report where proper investigation is not done and not released to the public. So as you want me to speak to Jeremy, I told Jeremy he should have joined with Georgie Porgy Galloway. If they'd done that, they might have had even seats at the last election. It would have decimated Labour as well, which would have been great. And I think there will be a political force. Don't forget, the whole of politics is going to get fractured 30% is going to win a general election in the future because of the fragmentation of the politics. So there's going to be that many different political parties fragmenting the system. The smaller numbers, you won't get like Tony Blair or Margaret Thatcher winning 40, 50, 45, whatever percent of the vote nationwide. You're going to get it fractured and smashed all over the place. So you're going to get different anomalies in different places. Georgie Porgy, pudding and pie, raisins, sultanas, raisins, Georgie Porgy pudding and raisins, sultanas pie. That's it. You want this shared on eggs? Yeah, share it, mate. Share it if you want. As I said, we're a libertarian channel. You do what you want, brother. We don't believe in imposing on others. So, wee Georgie Porgy is going to be a political force. 20% of the vote is looking like. He should join with the Workers' Party. It's the Workers' Party with Georgie Porgy. Pointless having two competing. They both agree on a lot. Sometimes you have to swallow egos in politics. That can be hard, but you have to deal with people that believe differently from you, and sometimes you can fit them into areas where you both agree on, and that's what you want to do. Stick them in. When Georgie wears his hat, you know he's on for interview some nurses. The Elizabeth guerillatvchannel at gmail.com. And if you can pass me on any information, anybody can come and speak to me. We don't discriminate. And so if you've got any nurses who want to come over and speak to me, they're more than welcome. I'm very nice. So, Georgie Porgy, because of the input of smaller parties now, you're going to see a whole different take on the political spectrum, and it's going to fragment majorities. It's going to fragment who wins the seats. It's going to fragment third parties getting in to win a seat because of splits in the vote. There's going to be fragmentation, which is going to be revolutionary for British politics, especially Westminster politics. Less so here because it's proportional representation, and in Wales, but fragmentation at Westminster, which means that other parties will dominate and get either larger or smaller majorities, depending on who's defending, beating who, and who's in the seat and defending each other. But it's going to be massive. So Georgie Porgy and Steptoe and Sons should join together. So I told Uncle Harold to join Georgie Porgy, and Georgie Porgy Georgie Porgy did say to him to come in, and he should be going to. Uncle Harold should be going to Georgie Porgy's party before the last election. That would have made the most sense. I told him to do that. He didn't listen because he's got an ego on him, Uncle Harold. And George said to him, "Come on in, we can do this." And he said he didn't do it. So this is the big thing that's actually happening. This is the big thing that will happen in the foreseeable future. That Georgie Porgy will maybe will join with Uncle Harold and Georgie Porgy and Harold in a Raisin Party. Or just Steptoe and Sons. Getting a bit wet, Davy. Don't trust reform, smokes and mirrors. Well, it's not that I have to trust it. I think when people say don't trust reform, it's smokes and mirrors. We don't have to. What reform's purpose is. How's Angela Rayner doing with her 3 houses? That's socialism for you. The reform's purpose is to break the back of the political system. That's what reform's purpose is. Whether trusting, not trusting is not relevant. It's to break the back. On the back of the breaking of the back of the political system, it can then lead to. So it won't be the next election; it'll be the election after that you'll be going to. So in the short term, it'll be reform. In the longer term, it will be somebody else. So I don't have to trust them or not trust them. I just have to trust the process, and the process is breaking the two-party state. wonder if she'll be letting folk from boats stay in one of the three houses. Aye, one of the three houses. We should force that. If people are wanting people to emigrate, they should. We'll just kick the fucking door in and put the immigrant in their house. See how they like it. They're that keen on immigration. So, John Parr, what's that I said? So, let me just clarify here. So, yes, they should have the Socialist Workers' Party, the National Socialist Workers' Party of Great Britain under Georgie Porgy, and Uncle Harold and the Steptoe Sons, your party, should have got together before the last election. And I told them, David can't read, too good, great speaker though, thanks. And it's too small, I think my eyes are going. But they should have joined before the last election. They didn't listen to me, and they could have joined together and actually formed the party prior to the last election, which would have been a potent change in Scottish politics way back then. And that would have made in British politics, in the Westminster politics, had George and Uncle Harold got together, they would have smashed it before the last election. That would have been the ideal time. But it's going to be great for the next Westminster election. So good luck to Uncle Harold and your party, or Steptoe Sons, or whatever it's called. Do you think, Davey, it's time for an armed citizenship in the UK? It's a failure of the state to do their job and for the police to do their job. A social justice system is a communist idea. The system is a liberal idea where regardless of what you look like, you get charged on the offence. Now we've got a deliberate breakdown of the policing properly, and then what will happen will be a vigilante justice. But this is all caused by the people that you're voting for. So if you don't want this to happen, don't vote for people who want a weak police force, or who want to not have a police force that carries out social justice rather than a justice system. So it's the voters' fault that this is happening. As for Steptoe, good luck to Steptoe. I hope the party goes great guns. Absolutely terrific. Good to see him on board. He really needs to bring in some people. He should have brought in Georgie Porgy Galloway. And he's now going to, Georgie Porgy Galloway and Steptoe Sons are going to fight against each other, where they could have been working together and getting a more unified far left, hard left, loony left, Bampots are us, commie scumbag party with the Islamists. The absolute gimps that they are. So in a few days, not that many. For the few, not the many. Well, for the doughballs, for the mentally retarded, not for the many. But anyway, I think I've covered it. So that's a big problem. I think my battery's running out as well. It's a big problem again for the SNP and Nippy in particular. The Operation Koper is still ongoing, and that she might be liable for homicidal practices in the medicine care homes and 2 individuals throughout Scotland. But baby gorillas, you heard it here first.